I'd like to welcome our partners in the regions of Africa, Middle East, and Europe to this 12th edition of the Director General's Forum to be dedicated to two important topics: the follow-up on the recommendation of the BAPA Plus 40 recommendation, but also to look at the challenges, opportunities posed by the COVID-19 pandemic to South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation. So we have had so far very insightful and important discussions within the opening sessions of the DG Forum, but also within the two breakout sessions that have taken place so far for the Americas, but also for Asia. So just I'd like to let you know that the session will be recorded, and we have interpretation for 4 languages: English, Arabic, and French and Spanish, and we look forward to your discussions. So over to you, Mr. Farouk, for the moderation of this session.
Thank you very much, thank you very much for the welcoming remarks. And just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Ahmed Farouk Dikan, Senior Technical Cooperation Coordinator at the Islamic Development Bank, and I'll be your moderator today, inshallah. And as Mr. Tariq has said, we are now having our last breakout session for the Africa, Middle East, and Europe region. We've had some rich discussions for the Americas and for Asia, and a lot, lots of thoughtful debates about how far we have come in achieving the BAPA Plus 40 recommendations. What can we do more to be more effective in South-South and triangular cooperation? How has COVID-19 affected us? What are some trends and opportunities that we can see in 2020, and how can we leverage those opportunities to improve development cooperation? So without taking too much of your time, we will get into the session. We have some esteemed speakers from Egypt, Morocco, Palestine, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Norwegia, and also our colleague Sarah from the African Peer Review Mechanism. So they'll be doing the speeches, and I'll start quickly to introduce our first speaker. Ambassador Mohammed Khalil is the Secretary General, Egyptian Agency of Partnership for Development. Ambassador Khalil served as the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Arab Republic of Egypt to the Republic of Albania. Prior to that, he served various positions, including Deputy Secretary General of the Egyptian Agency of Partnership for Development, Consul General of Egypt in Port Sudan, and Office of the Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs for Parliamentary Affairs. And in the interest of time, of course, I'll cut it there, and I'll invite our esteemed Ambassador Mohammed Khalil to take the floor. The mic is yours, Ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farouk. Good morning and good evening. It's a pleasure to participate in the 12th edition of the DG Forum, organized by the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, the Japan International Cooperation Agency, and the Islamic Development Bank, as an important platform to exchange views and experiences on the trends, opportunities, and challenges on the path to the sustainable development, strengthening South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation in the COVID-19 context, with a special focus on Africa within this breakout session. The Egyptian Agency of Partnership for Development is the developmental arm of the Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, founded in 2014. It serves as the first Egyptian institution mandated to promote South-South cooperation. Building on the long-standing achievements of its predecessors, the Egyptian Fund for Technical Cooperation with Africa of 1980, and the Egyptian Fund for Technical Cooperation with the Commonwealth countries of 1992. It aims at putting the country's comparative advantages and technical expertise into effect for the benefit of the South-South cooperation, in particular in Africa. The APT works relentlessly on providing medicines to our brothers and sisters in the African continent to help improve public health. We also offer capacity building programs and workshops in the health sector, dispatch medical experts and convoys to the areas of shortage. Moreover, we have a wide network of medical centers, clinics, and Egyptian departments within various health institutions in Africa. This goes hand in hand with providing humanitarian relief aid and assistance in times of need. APD appreciates the capacity building joint programs we implement for Africa in various fields of health with regional partners like the Islamic Development Bank and with international partners like the Japan International Cooperation Agency, as well as our source of pride on the national level through prestigious medical institutions of international standings. Our strategy takes into consideration the importance of quality education through the provision of university scholarships for the African students in cooperation with the Faculty of Medicine of Ain Shams University. Our vision prioritizes a human-centered approach necessary to build African capacities and to empower local communities in Africa to best utilize their resources in a rational manner. We engage with our development partners in such pursuit, taking into consideration the sustainability of our projects. We also recognize the importance of involving multiple stakeholders in achieving SDGs through South-South and triangular cooperation, where governments create enabling environments and mobilizes collective action by a growing number of diverse actors. Moreover, we invite all relevant stakeholders to share their knowledge and experience in poverty reduction policies and strategies to intensify efforts toward eradication of poverty and all its forms and dimensions. The world is struggling with the severe health, economic, and social impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the developing countries are at greater risk for this global shock. With limited resources and weak capacity to carry out lockdown measures, support their economies, and deal with external shocks, developing countries are in particularly difficult position to respond and recover. The extreme economic and social consequences they are facing may reverse decades of development progress and further jeopardize efforts to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It is therefore crucial to support developing countries to address their priorities and most urgent needs in the current crisis through sub-regional, regional, and even inter-regional collaboration efforts. True to the essence and the principles of South-South cooperation, the APD adopts a demand-driven approach by responding to the priority needs of the countries of the South, especially for Africa. We seek to ensure that the technical cooperation and activities we provide and the partnerships we build contribute to the continent's efforts and to achieve sustainable development and realize the goals of the SDGs and Africa's Agenda 2063. We hereby consolidate our unshakable commitment of promoting South-South and triangular cooperation in a way that changes the realities of our communities and address those of fragile contexts. Hence, I would like to conclude my contribution with welcoming any efforts to collaborate and work with the Egyptian Agency of Partnership for Development towards the realization of our common goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Mohammed Khalil. We thank you for giving us the perspective of EAPD in terms of developing, helping reducing poverty in Africa, in the African context, as well as how that can be accelerated in the context of COVID-19. So we'll move on to our next speaker, and just to remind our participants, you can start asking even your questions now in the chat box, but we will keep all the other questions till the end. So we'll let our speakers finish first, inshallah. Our second speaker is Ambassador Mohammed Mithqal. He's the Director General of the Morocco Agency for International Cooperation. Since his appointment, Ambassador Mithqal is coordinating Morocco's national efforts in international humanitarian assistance through the implementation of many royal initiatives in close coordination with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that consists multiple emergency donations to more than 40 countries covering various regions. He has also worked on implementing Moroccan cooperation projects in health, agriculture, fisheries, and education in partner countries, mainly in Africa, Middle East, and Latin America. Ambassador Mithqal, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Hello. Thank you very much, Ahmed. It's a real pleasure to be with you.
Yes, we
Just
can hear
trying
you.
to solve some issues. So on behalf of the Kingdom of Morocco, we are very pleased to be with you this year again. And it's an opportunity for us to thank JICA, IsDB, and the United Nations South-South Cooperation Office. It's a real pleasure to be with you. As we mentioned, the Kingdom of Morocco didn't wait BAPA plus 40 to get involved in implementing South-South cooperation. Since many decades, Kingdom of Morocco is very much involved on developing South-South cooperation. His Majesty personally is involved on that. And during the last 2 decades, foreign policy of the Kingdom of Morocco makes South-South cooperation as one of the main pillar of its actions by placing the human development in the center of actions, initiatives, and programs. On that, we succeeded in creating, under the leadership of His Majesty, the King Mohammed VI, a real national dynamic that gets involved in this vision, all stake of actors coming from public, private sector, but also civil society. The Moroccan International Cooperation Agency, in close coordination with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, are working on a daily basis to implement and develop cooperation programs with partner countries in this vision. Currently, we are working to launch our national network of South-South cooperation actors here in Morocco that will regroup the major actors that are involved in this dynamic from private sector, public sector, but also civil society. Recently, we accelerated our partnership that AMSI is developing with the private sector. Last year, we signed an agreement in the National Federation of Agriculture that allowed during COVID-19 to the private sector from African countries to participate in online training on how SMEs in agriculture can be performed and develop some technologies. We are also currently working with ISDB in order to do an online evaluation mission with the partner country in Guinea. His Majesty the King last year, in order to face at the continental level the COVID-19, has launched a continental initiative with the president of Senegal and president of Cote d'Ivoire in order to allow Africa to have a framework, pragmatic framework that will allow response on the 3 main sides that could cover the economic side, the social side, but also the medical side. And as an implementation to this initiative, His Majesty initiated a donation to 21 African countries in June 2020 in order to allow these partner countries to face the propagation of the COVID-19. It was a very important initiative and action. We are speaking about 218 tons of medical products to face the COVID-19 by these partner countries. And all the products have been produced in Morocco. So they are 100% made in Morocco, provided in a framework of public-private partnership between the government of Morocco and the private sector here with the Moroccan SMEs. Some numbers to illustrate this action. More than 10 million of masks have been shipped to those 21 African countries, 1.2 shields, hydraulic gels, many tons of that, and so on. So it was very important. It is the largest initiative to face COVID-19 that have been shared with partner countries in Africa. And it is an initiative made by the South for the South countries. And so that's why it is also important. And it shows how Morocco is involved in the implementation and how to accelerate this implementation of recommendations that have been adopted by partner countries in BAPA plus 40. So on our perspective, we are working also to update our development strategic plan of AMSI in order to include more online training and online missions. Another way of implementing through these new technologies. This year, we registered 1,800 students from partner countries in our universities in Morocco in the official program that we are managing for the academic and cultural cooperation. And these 1,800 students are fully following their courses online from their home country. We are doing the same also in the technical cooperation side through our development capacity program with partner countries. So again, we are very pleased to participate and to be with you here, and we will be listening to you and to see how we can move forward all together. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Mithkal, for informing all of us about the important work that Morocco has been doing in response to COVID and supporting the countries in the region as well as beyond. And I'm sure in the discussion we'll get to learn more about how some of those private, public-private partnerships that you've been developing, for instance, are being leveraged, and what kind of lessons you can learn, share with us. And for all of us to learn from. Thank you so much. Now, moving on to our next speaker, we have Ambassador Imad Zohairi. He's the Director General of the Palestinian International Cooperation Agency. Ambassador Zohairi is a Palestinian career diplomat who has been serving at the Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates since 1994 in different capacities. Ambassador Zohairi was the Charge d'Affaires and Deputy Head of the Permanent Observer Mission of the State of Palestine to the United Nations Office at Geneva from 2008 to 2016. Ambassador Zohairi, welcome, and we're eager to also hear your intervention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, brother. Allow me to start.
I think we might be having a slight connection issue.
To my. Are you hearing me, brother?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, all is good right now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, brother. And I would like to take this opportunity to start by expressing my most sincere appreciation and gratitude for the organizers, for the previous speakers, and for the panelists. Excellencies, dear participants, 2019 we met in Istanbul to discuss our progress in achieving the SDGs and BAPA plus 40 outcomes. Today we are in front of our iPhones and laptops to follow up on the implementation of this BAPA plus 40, our previous plans, and to discuss further as well the best modalities to promote South-South and triangular cooperation. There is no doubt that 2020 was an exceptional year. Still, 2021 is an exceptional year due to the COVID-19 pandemic and related issues. This pandemic has shown us all and give us a good lesson that no single country can face this global concern alone, and rather there should be more cooperation, coordination among all the countries to try to solve the issue and come out with the most convenient results. Despite all these challenges that we are facing here in Palestine at the level of PICA or at the level of the country due to this COVID-19 pandemic, PICA decided to proceed in fulfilling its duties and provide the needed technical assistance to like-minded countries of the South. We extended our mandate to work internally as well, to put our little house in order, to develop our capacities, to work on strengthening the national ecosystem, and to engage in different activities that are related to raising awareness in addition to programs that we should have been implementing in 2019, but due to the pandemic, we were not able to deploy our teams, but still we are in contact direct with all our partners to do so. During the pandemic, PICA focused more on the health sector, which I strongly believe to be suffering greatly during the crisis. We even had the partnership with the IsDB, with the reverse linkage department, to engage in different activities. One of them was for the benefit of our brothers in the Republic of Sudan, enhancing the capacities of the national laboratories over there. And we even engaged in other activities that are related to providing support, medical support through training and medical interventions in Afghanistan. A whole team of doctors and medical staff will be deployed as of next week to Afghanistan. This comes in full support by the reverse linkage department from the Islamic Development Bank. I think that this whole process led us to become more creative and more innovative in terms of responding to the current situation. We have started a big program with the Popular Republic of China in supported by the Islamic Development Bank, and this program will be aiming to strengthen the capacities of the member states of the Islamic Development Bank. We are in the process right now to defining the TORs for this program, and I think this will be focused only on COVID-19 and the pandemic. We can learn a lot from the crisis. I think there is always a chance to work, to perform, and to implement programs. The crisis revealed to us that we can work and cooperate together even in emergency situations and even when there are national needs in the countries of the South to respond to them. Building an ecosystem for development agencies and building their institutional capacities will enable all of us to continue to work towards strengthening South-South and triangular cooperation. SSTC showed how the countries of the South can benefit from each other, regardless of the capabilities and the capacities, and the human resources remain to be the most important factor in fulfilling any program. Other aspects of development, such as economy, education, should not be overlooked when dealing with the pandemic. Achieving the sustainable development goals requires a holistic perspective to overcome the impact of the corona crisis and moving forward in the international development. Partnerships with the private sector is a key word in the success of any operation, and PICA at this level, I think during the past 2 years, we did a great work in strengthening the ties with the private sector from Palestine and from the diaspora. And this cooperation with the private sector did enable us to proceed in realizing our programs. While looking ahead, PICA will continue to harness a continuous learning culture and innovating mindset and an ability to create and share knowledge that meets our needs, where the needs are aligned with the evolving needs of our partners as well. Palestine, definitely, despite the current situation, whether political or COVID-19, can be part of the ongoing programs in facing global challenges and can be a partner in benefiting from the existing opportunities. We are confident that together with our partners, we can make a change that promotes and further enhances South-South and triangular cooperation. I think I would stop at this point while re-emphasizing once again what I have said in previous sessions. South-South cooperation should not in any way be seen or considered as a tool that replaces or an alternative to North-South cooperation. On the contrary, we should continue thinking of the possibility on strengthening triangular and South-South cooperation. At the same time, aligned to this, we should be working parallel to strengthen North-South cooperation in realizing the United Nations 2030 SDGs. I thank you, brother, for your attention, and I'll be ready to answer any of the questions or to consider any of the constructive remarks to be introduced at a later stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Imad Zoheri. I think you mentioned several projects that we are doing together, and we really appreciate PICA's cooperation with us, and it's as you've said, despite the challenges that you're facing, it's really encouraging, and it's a sign. It's a very good example to all the countries in the South that whatever happens, we can always stand together and help each other under any circumstances. So thank you so much. So we'll move on to our next speaker. I've had a request from Tika to to come back later, so we'll move to Miss Adia Aghazada. from Azerbaijan. Ms. Alia, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'll quickly introduce you. Thank you for connecting. Ms. Alia Aghazada is the Deputy Director of the Azerbaijan International Development Agency since 2018. She has joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Azerbaijan in 1997. During these years of diplomatic service, Ms. Aghazada worked in the various departments of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, such as Media and Information Department, Strategic Research Department, and Human Resources Department. From 2013 till 2017, she worked at the Embassy of the Republic of Azerbaijan to the Kingdom of the Netherlands as Counselor and Charge d'Affaires. Ms. Aghazada, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a nice introduction. It's a very great pleasure and honor to be with you today. It's my first participation in such event. So first of all, I would like to thank the Japan Development Agency and the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation and the Islamic Development Bank for organizing such an important conference. And I'm confident that the current event will be useful for all participants and will create important conditions for further strengthening of future cooperation. I would like to mention that the Republic of Azerbaijan attaches great importance to international development and cooperation. It is especially important to work together to prevent the reduce the negative results caused recently by COVID-19. As a part of chairmanship of non-alignment movement, a special session on the prevention of the coronavirus pandemic was held on December 4 last year, and the initiative of President of Republic of Azerbaijan and organized by UN General Assembly. On many platforms, the Republic of Azerbaijan stressed the importance of ensuring the necessary level of vaccination for the countries in need of the world to combat COVID-19. Noting the importance of combating the efforts of donor countries and international organizations in this regard. I would like to note that in order to support the efforts of fighting the spread of COVID-19, our country has provided assistance to 33 foreign countries and 3 international organizations. In general, our country has provided humanitarian, financial, and technical assistance to about 120 foreign countries, and more than 5 million people have benefited from assistance. I will stop here now. Thank you for attention, and thank you for giving me a chance to speak today.
Okay, I muted myself. Thank you very much, Ms. Aghazada, for your intervention and for the work that Azerbaijan is doing under the non-aligned movement in helping countries, sharing expertise with other countries, as well as the work that that you've done, the humanitarian assistance that you've provided. So, thank you for sharing this update with all of us. Moving on, we would like to move to our next speaker. Mr. Helge Espe. He is the Senior Advisor to the Norwegian Agency for Exchange Cooperation in Policy and Strategic Affairs. His areas of responsibility cover in particular Agenda 2030, South-South and Triangular Cooperation, and matters relating to the UN and multilateral organizations, the Global Partnership Initiatives, as well as international think tanks, networks, and various associations of volunteering. Previously, Mr. Espe has worked 11 years in Ethiopia as resident representative for Save the Children Norway. Mr. Helge, the floor is yours, and we're looking forward to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, for this introduction. Excellencies, colleagues, good morning, good afternoon. Considering the time frame of 5 minutes, I will try to focus only on three aspects here. I would first like to say something about Norec and how the COVID pandemic has affected our work. Second, I would like to give you an example of the strength of the South-South Cooperation Exchange model that we have. And finally, I would offer just a couple of comments about the future as it could affect us in Norec. So Norec, or the Norwegian Agency for Exchange Cooperation, is a technical agency under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It is our mandate to finance, support, and oversee mutual exchange of personnel between institutions, organizations, and businesses in Norway and the Global South, and also South-South. These personnel exchanges take place within the framework of partnerships between the sending and receiving organizations, and of course within the framework of the Sustainable Development Goals and Norwegian policy for international development cooperation in general. The main purpose of these exchanges is to support partners to exchange knowledge, experience, and competence between them. And Norec's own expertise is more on the method, how personnel exchange can be utilized as an effective tool for mutual competence building, be that South-South, North-South, or in triangular fashion. So in a normal year, we facilitate sending out about 600 new experts recruited from 25 countries in the Global South, as well as Norway. And the stay abroad usually lasts for one year. The BAPA +40 outcome document recognizes personnel exchange as an important dimension of South-South and triangular cooperation. It's recognized that the knowledge, experience, and resources provided through personnel exchange contribute to national expertise and capacity building. So Norec was in 2020 mandated by our Ministry of Foreign Affairs to follow up this aspect of the BAPA +40 outcome document. Now, I think you can all easily understand that an agency with a main mandate to bring people physically together. We are facing severe challenges now that borders have been closed and severe restrictions have been placed on the usual freedom of movements, both nationally and internationally, and also as regards the congregation of citizens, and also the fact that businesses have been closed down and so on and so forth. So we had to take a number of measures to combat this during the last year. Of course, no new personnel has been sent out in the last year, but we have honored ongoing contracts and let the partners continue to stay in touch with each other, but without physical exchange. Instead, we have launched Exchange 2.0, which means competence building by virtual means. So we have supported the partners to continue online to exchange competence instead of through physical visits. We've also done all the planning and preparation work for new exchanges to start once the world opens up again. And also, of course, there's been a strong drive, as for many agencies, for digitalization, for example, with respect to preparation courses for the personnel to travel and for the organizations to send and receive personnel. We've also had the opportunity to strengthen research and development aspects. I should then say a little bit about personnel exchange as compared to other modes. As you can imagine, when we have personnel traveling both north-south, south-north, south-south, we are in a position to compare quite directly the modes here and the effectiveness of the various modes. We can regularly collect data about the outcomes and effectiveness with respect to partner outcome, as well as learning on individual level. We can also compare, for example, if it's more beneficial for agencies to send someone out to learn and share and come back, as compared to receive an expert from abroad for the same period of time. So I will give you just one example of such a comparison of modes, and I will then show one slide. If I'm successful, maybe the organizer will help me to upload my only slide for today.
Are you going to share your screen, Mr.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't know if I can
If
do
the
that.
technical colleagues, if you can please allow Mr. Espe to share his screen.
But if not, I can just try to take it verbally. The screen would show that the number of first that the number of experts received in our own country when the COVID broke out 1 year ago. It was about the same number as we then had sent out. We had sent out 85 Norwegians to countries in the south, and we had received 89 from abroad. And you will also see from that that screen that by far the highest number of people recruited were South personnel who had been sent to other countries in the south. So this demonstrates we are a strong supporter of South-South cooperation. Thank you. And also the first figures here demonstrates an important feature on Norec's model, which I would like to underline, that the partnerships are built on the notion that all parties in a relationship have something both to learn and to share. And when two partners team up for exchange, the number of people to travel between them should be about equal. This as a reference to Agenda 2030, of course, which is equally valid for all countries. Now, if you go and look at the second column, you will see that during 10 dramatic days a year ago, the number of Norwegians abroad reduced drastically. The Norwegians wanted to go home where things were difficult. In 10 days, there were only 13 out of 85 left. However, as you can see, for personnel recruited in the south, it was entirely different. The vast majority of south personnel remained on their job and continued to share and exchange competence, both in Norway as well as in other countries in the global south. And all partners and personnel were offered equal opportunities to go or stay. So we simply have to conclude in this case that the South-South exchange in the COVID crisis proved to be more robust, more sustainable, and the most effective mode. So this certainly has proved to us that we have to continue and maybe even strengthen the support to South-South personnel exchange in the future. You can take down the slide now, and then just a couple of comments now at the end on the future of personnel exchange post-COVID. I would say that personnel exchange at the scale is of course dependent upon an ecosystem. Of course, it has the pandemic has to be curbed, but it also has to be a conducive ecosystem for international travels, for issuance of work and residence permits and all that, which may take time to achieve. And in general, I think this type of personnel exchange is dependent upon a continued positive attitude to international cooperation and to multilateral systems. We'll see how it goes. And the last point about the future, it's actually more a learning from this last year. I think we have seen that we can share hard facts type of competencies over the screen. Hard skills, hard knowledge, that has been demonstrated. What we miss out is the add-on experiences of direct interaction between people, organizations, cultures, and countries. and what those who travel out actually are bringing home in terms of indirect learning, social remittances, as it also have been called. So we think that the webinars are great, but they cannot replace the physical meetings when it comes to creating partnerships and to create trusts. So that was my final point. Ahmed, thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Espe. I think we all agree that webinars are not a replacement of the physical meetings. We hope that we can, this pandemic will be beyond us soon, so we can all meet physically and have these forums, and have these physical exchanges. So, and thank you very much for sharing some of the work that Norec is doing and some of the challenges that you mentioned that are COVID-19 related, and of course that also brings about the point about the digital divide. A lot of these exchanges helping southern countries happened physically, and obviously now with that digital divide, that was actually a hot topic that came up several times in the discussions in different regions. So it's food for thought for all of us and for development practitioners also to think about how we can solve that issue. Since some of the changes that we're seeing because of the pandemic might stay with us as they seem to be seen as improvements for business and things, from that angle. So thank you very much. And now I will go back to our speaker from the Turkish Cooperation and Coordination Agency to very quickly introduce Dr. Rahman Nurdun. He's currently the Vice President of Turkish Cooperation and Coordination Agency since January 2019. Dr. Nurdun started his professional career as an expert in JICA in 2000. He was seconded as a project advisor to OECD MENA investment program between 2004 and 2005, and the OECD Partnership for Democratic Governance between 2009 and 2010. He served as head of JICA Ulaanbaatar Program Coordination Office between 2010 and 11, and the head of East and South Asia, Pacific and Latin America Department between 2014 and 2018. Dr. Rahman, welcome, and we're looking forward to hear from you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for introduction. And I really thank you very much. And dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure for me to attend this forum. First of all, I'd like to extend my gratitude to United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation and JICA, as well as the Islamic Development Bank for co-hosting this very important event. I also would like to extend my thanks to the esteemed speakers for their contributions. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused human suffering and triggered social and economic turmoil around the world. And this extraordinarily global health and economic crisis requires an equally global and exceptional coherent policy response, as no single country can tackle and survive the socio-economic consequences of the pandemic alone. Since the outbreak of the pandemic, Turkish Cooperation Coordination Agency has implemented around 200 COVID-19 related projects in 72 countries, which had positive and direct effect on more than 2 million individuals' life. Although the global mobilization to fight the consequences of COVID-19 has been very impressive, but more should be done, I think. In addition to reasonable funds, donor agencies should focus on the creating and spreading knowledge of solutions and promoting best practices in the response. This pandemic clearly demonstrates how South-South and triangular cooperation are crucial to mobilize critical assistance, to share experiences, to respond to the socio-economic crisis, and to find ways to help countries recover from the pandemic while making progress on the SDGs. I strongly believe that this meeting offers us an opportunity to highlight once more the inherent power of South-South and the triangular cooperation to respond decisively to global crisis. Dear colleagues, to answer the question, what kind of role can international and regional development institutions and think tanks play, especially through South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation? I would say, although cooperation among countries of the South cannot substitute for the actions required by the wider international community, but it can bring a degree of relief and support with recovery. In addition, it can provide a blueprint for the kind of international cooperation and coordination that will be needed to recover better than after previous crises. With this in mind, our South-South cooperation agenda needs to be built around the three broad objectives: scaling up financial resources, enhancing policy space, and build resilience. Thousand actors are in a more powerful position than they were a decade ago, thanks to new opportunities, solid investment infrastructures, innovative tools, and multifaceted consultation mechanisms. Many of the actors who took this opportunity during the pandemic began to direct their programs to health-related investment projects that would provide long-term benefits for the post-COVID world order in other health challenges. The urgent need for remedy to COVID-19 has provided new cooperation opportunities for the South-South Cooperation Initiative in health and related areas. Within inter-regional health initiatives, evidence-based collective research and development efforts in medicine should be the top priority in the coming years. Any medicines or medical discoveries related to the survival of people needed to be shared widely and access made available to all, especially to the most vulnerable countries and communities in the global South. Another line of policy action could involve strengthening regional value chains in health-related products and services after the post-COVID era. This is necessary to prevent the contraction job markets emerged about the industries and services during this crisis, and to keep the resilience levels for possible pandemics in the future. On the other hand, the pandemic has also brought to the forefront the flexibility needed by countries in procuring and distributing food, especially at times of crisis. Furthermore, building food supply independence is another source of resilience. Most developing countries are well placed to develop regional collaboration in agricultural value chains, as the economies present significant complementarities in this respect. In this regard, emergency initiatives can be helpful by providing financial resources allocated to save small and medium-sized producers and strengthen regional supply chains. In response to COVID-19, I think that the southern countries need to strengthen strategic partnerships and build solidarity around reforms to build a multilateral architecture based on inclusive global governance. Across the world, every country has its unique experiences of the direct and indirect impact of the pandemic, and the experiences of developing countries are different from those of the global north, and may be more suitable to other developing countries. Only by learning from this experience can effective solutions be found and the international community successfully deliver the Agenda 2030. Thus, solutions produced to overcome COVID-19 pandemic will not only cover the pandemic-related problems, but also other global challenges such as climate change, poverty, hunger, regional and global conflicts. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I'm fully confident that discussion in this meeting will elaborate and shed more light on future direction of the cooperation among South-South cooperation institutions in addressing the global challenges, including the COVID-19 crisis, in sharing best practices more effectively and offering sustainable, scalable joint solutions while considering to realize the sustainable development goals. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rahman Nurdun, for your intervention. I think you've highlighted several key points, and I've taken note of, for instance, the 3 objectives that you've mentioned that the that development cooperation agencies and partners should be focusing on, like scaling up financial resources, enhancing policy space, and building resilience. And as a matter of fact, for especially this resilience aspect was also discussed in the plenary. Talking about the dimension that yes, we have lots of cooperation going on, and there was a good response and cooperation among the countries of the South. But in terms of resilience, in terms of preparedness, we can do much better, and we need to prepare for the next disaster, the next pandemic, and the next and we're already facing a lot of crises related to climate change and health and other issues. So we have to be prepared. So thank you for bringing these points up, and I'm sure that during the discussion we'll get into more detail about some of these points. And now we come to our last but not least speaker, and Ms. Sarah Hamouda. She's the SDGs and Agenda 2063 expert at the African Peer Review Mechanism. She has 11 years of professional experience in the international cooperation and development field. Currently, she works for the African Union Secretariat for Peer Review Mechanism as an officer in charge of the Agenda 2063, the SDGs unit, and South-South cooperation, based in Johannesburg, South Africa. She manages continental capacity building projects, as well as multilateral workshops on Agenda 2063 advocacy, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation, with a special focus on SDGs 16 and 17. She handles the APRM continental work on and UN voluntary national reviews, and the APRM collaboration with UN agencies. So I think, Ms. Sarah, now you have a big task ahead of you, because you have to sort of connect all of these discussions and interventions that have happened, perhaps with the SDGs agenda, as well as the Africa's Agenda 2063, and enlighten us with your intervention, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you.
So good afternoon, colleagues, excellencies. All protocols are observed for the sake of time. Thank you, Ahmed, for the kind introduction. Allow me first to convey Professor Eddie Maluka, the director, the CEO of APRM, his regards and greetings to all of you. He was very much looking forward to joining you today, but he was taken off guard actually to have a business mission to the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, to sign the accession into APRM. So he asked me to handle this hard task today, but he really appreciates your agility, resilience as UN Office for South-South Cooperation, JICA, and the Islamic Development Bank to take the lead and organize this DG forum in these challenging times. Well, I actually would like to, based on the given questions of the discussion, I organized my intervention into 3 sections. The first part on the challenges that the continent has been facing since the COVID-19 took place in 2020. The role of the the second intervention will be based on the African Union role and the APRM also interventions since last year. And lastly, but not least, also some food for thoughts or ideas about the way forward. So, of course, the African Union as an intergovernmental organization and its affiliated organs like the APRM were taken off guard by COVID-19. And as most of the speakers alluded, the pandemic doesn't only affect SDG 3 on health and well-being, but also other SDGs like education, peace and security, SDG 16, trust in the government, SDG 8 on decent work and economic growth, and so on and so forth. Although the APRM governance assessment reports and reviews have always emphasized the necessity to invest in healthcare sector in Africa, this recommendations was not taken punctually, if I can say it, by EU member states, by all EU member states, due to many reasons: institutional, human, financial, and coordination challenges. Here, I am focusing on 4 challenges that we have noticed based on our research in the last year. The first challenge, that Africa's limited contribution to the global healthcare and pharmaceutical industry is extremely alarming. Africa is still lagging behind, unlike other continents, in healthcare manufacturing, as most of Africa's medical supplies are procured from outside the continent. And this negatively affects African states' capacities to marshal resources and adopt measures against COVID-19. Furthermore, it hampers the continent's recovery approach against the pandemic on the long term. Of course, we commend some countries like Egypt, Senegal, Ghana, South Africa, and Morocco as forerunners for South-South cooperation and even for investing in their health care industries, especially with the disruption of supply chains and restrictive lockdown measures globally. Given this situation, we believe that the chance we have now is the acceleration of Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which is a flagship project of Agenda 2063. One of the major opportunities and lessons learned to fill Africa's gap in medical and healthcare manufacturing and even basic products is to accelerate the implementation of this initiative as soon as possible. It can also rescue the continent from the foreign medical dependency. The second challenge we have, colleagues, is also the lack of investment in human resources and the low level of national expenditure on healthcare services and inclusive insurance systems, research and development in the continent. So far, the total spending on healthcare in Africa has remained within a narrow band of 5 to 6% of GDP from 2000 until 2015. On average, though, in per capita, it has almost doubled from 150, I think, $billion to 292, but still this is very little. And regardless of the adoption of the Abuja Declaration in 2001, which urged African countries to pledge at least 15% of their annual budget to post the healthcare sector and ask donor countries to scale up support, this target has proven elusive until 2020. We have few African countries actually increased spending on healthcare services, but still never attained 15. And that's why we believe it's a little bit unrealistic to expect this increase in the near future. The third point is also the data collection. Data collection on healthcare and SDGs 3 in particular remains a big challenge in Africa. According to the SDG dashboard for Africa in 2020, most of African countries have significant challenge to report on SDG 3, with 80% of indicators highlighted in red, which means that we couldn't collect data on countries' responsiveness or even indicators pertinent to this goal. Africa is among the lowest performers worldwide in improving healthcare sector and building resilience around such a goal because of course, high dependency, as I said, on imported medical supplies, lack of finance in the healthcare sector and infrastructure. The fourth problem is regarding the reporting on SDG 3 and the implementation of disaster risk frameworks in Africa, such as the SINADI framework. It's still insufficiently carried by many countries, and only 4 African countries reported that the disaster risk management strategy are fully implemented. Many countries adopted the strategy, but they haven't operationalized it sufficiently. Moving to the role of the African Union, of course, the Union this time has been proactive from day one in the COVID-19 crisis. The EU interventions emanated from its commitment as continental organization to support member states in the face of such a crisis. Among the most important initiatives have been as followed: implementation of the common African continental strategy on COVID-19 framework to fight the pandemic and strengthen health systems and mobilization of resources. This strategy actually has been one of the significant initiatives that saved also until this moment many African countries from losing more human costs during the pandemic. The strategy aimed to prevent severe illness and deaths, to minimize social disruptions and economic consequences of COVID-19, to ensure synergies to avoid duplication through coordination with UN, WHO, and regional blocs, and to also ensure centralized technical support, providing accurate information and building trust within citizens. Mostly important, the strategy aims to support member states to develop and implement comprehensive, regularly tested preparedness and response plans. It's also worth to refer to the African Health Volunteers Corps, which is a team of African volunteer medical and public health professionals established by the African Union to support the emergency response to disease outbreaks in Africa. And I have to say here that Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, has been exerting efforts to work on the strategy actually since inception. But also the Union has taken further steps like establishing technical committee with participation of experts from across the continent to provide holistic strategy to mitigate the negative impact of the pandemic. Under the South African presidency led by President Ramaphosa, there was also an initiative to create the Continental Solidarity Fund, to have a high level assigned 4 envoys to play leadership role in spearheading and the mobilization of resources for anti-COVID fund, and also to encourage South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation among African countries through the exchange of medical workers at front lines, and also medical support provided by different countries like Egypt, South Africa, Morocco, as the distinguished excellencies highlighted earlier. As Africa's homegrown organization to promote good governance and enrich discussion and fostering also the implementation of Agenda 2063, particularly Aspiration 3 and 4, pertinent to good governance, rule of law, and peaceful Africa, we have also we have been trying to do our exercise and not to disappear from the space. So during the pandemic and even earlier, we have taken some measures related to South-South cooperation. But let me focus now on what we have been doing since the eruption of COVID-19. The APRM established a continental task force on COVID-19, actually from across the continent, and has been meeting regularly in order to discuss the policy interventions by African countries. And we also produced an initial report on Africa governance response to COVID-19. I can share the report, the link of the report with you on the chat. And also the report aims to stocktake on the member states' preparedness and different policy interventions against the pandemic. The second measures we have been taking is also incorporating resilience as a thematic area into the APRM governance assessment. And currently we prepare for continental capacity building training for African national executives on how to operationalize resilience and report on resilience indicators into national development plans, because it's extremely, we have noticed that countries, not all the countries responded on the same level or with the same capacity, despite all the restrictive measures which have been taken against COVID-19. Of course, it's important here to say that resilience echoes the multifaceted nature of the 2030 development agenda. And that's why it necessitates cross-sectoral, multidimensional, and dynamic policies to ensure progress and living conditions through the attainment of SDGs. And as we know that also resilience is entrenched among different goals like SDG 1, SDG 2, SDG 13, and 17. The third measure we have been taking and doing actually with the support of our dear friend Tara is to strengthen partnerships with the South-South cooperation players. And we are proud to say that we managed to sign MOU with the UN Office for South-South Cooperation on the margins of the high-level political forum last year. We managed to conclude partnerships with SIDA, GIZ, UNDP, and even emerging donors like the United Arab Emirates to support member states in addressing specific KPIs or indicators pertinent to SDG 3 and beyond, like economic transformation, digitalization, and food security. We have been also working now on Africa Governance Knowledge Hub in order to provide free access modules and awareness programs on South-South cooperation significance for the implementation of both agendas, 2030 and 2063. Related to PAPA Plus 40, and I'm sorry, Ahmed, if I'm exceeding my time, I will try to conclude in 2 minutes. Related to PAPA Plus 40, also APRM has been doing a lot of dynamic activities related to PAPA Plus 40 and also South-South cooperation, given its expanded mandate to play a role in the implementation and monitoring of Agenda 2063. We organized various meetings, and the last one actually was taking place in Cairo in January 2020, immediately before the lockdown to be imposed in both countries, either Cairo or Johannesburg. And we have come to some recommendations and also conclusions from this meeting that there is a lack of holistic approach for mainstreaming South-South cooperation into development planning in Africa. Of course, we have some good examples like Rwanda, Egypt, Ghana. They are trying to incorporate South-South cooperation in development planning, but this is not the case for the rest of the continent. There is absence of data to track South-South cooperation and provide transparent M&E system. There is also urgency to have inclusive approach with the stakeholders and lack of clarity also on existing institutional mechanism to rationalize South-South cooperation and follow up on the PAPA Plus 40 implementation. So we believe that COVID-19 offered this opportunity for APRM to play this catalytic role to support not only the normative debates on good governance, but also policy discussions concerning Africa's priority for Agenda 2063 and how South-South cooperation, how we build synergies with South-South cooperation programs. Lastly, but not least, on the way forward, I think Africa is extremely privileged in the way that all emerging donors and partners of the Global South succeeded to establish partnerships either with the African Union or with African countries. However, I believe that donors of Global South need to align their plans for Africa as per Agenda 2063 priorities and flagship projects, which mainly focuses on industrialization, agro-products, online business, and scientific programs. Secondly, I believe also that there is still lack of awareness on the role of South-South cooperation in the continent, and therefore we should pay attention to provide further training courses on South-South cooperation to national executive officers. The COVID itself is also a chance to strengthen capacity building for the frontline health workers. And for instance, in South Africa, we have been receiving support from Cuba and from other countries in the Global South. The third point here, I see that there's the African, Asian, African, Latin American cooperation are also new horizons for South-South cooperation that should be supported. And we have started already some discussions with Colombia and Argentina last year. And we truly look forward to take this talk, we walk the talk, as we say, this year. Lastly, but not least, I feel that based on all these discussions since 2019, that apart from the South-South cooperation modalities or the channels to secure funds to Africa, Africa needs its own voice on how South-South cooperation shall be harmonized and aligned to avoid proliferation, duplication of efforts. Therefore, the APRM will be organizing a regional forum. We hope to organize this forum by the end of 2021 in South Africa. This is an initiative that we have been discussing since last year with the UN Office for South-South Cooperation. And we aim through this high-level forum for Africa to discuss further on institutional mechanisms for tracking South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation, to follow up on the implementation of PAPA +40 at regional and continental levels, to discuss horizontal partnerships for Agenda 2063, and to also discuss the role of regional players, Gulf countries, Turkey, Latin America, as I said, and we are extremely proud of the collaboration with the UN Office for South-South Cooperation in this regard. So our priorities for 2021 will be creating this regional platform for the continent, to build synergies on South-South cooperation, to generate ideas for resource mobilization, engaging civil society and youth in the South-South cooperation dialogue, and lastly but not least, to diffuse knowledge on South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation among African youth and experts. Allow me to stop here. I thank you, Ahmed, and sorry if I took longer than 7 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah. That was very comprehensive, and you've touched on many points regarding the needs in Africa, what's happening currently, and how to move these two agendas, important agendas, forward. And thanks for also letting us know about this regional forum that you're going to be implementing soon. And I think that's very relevant to give a voice to African countries to sort of bring that cohesion among within the continent. Yeah. So we want to thank all of our speakers for their interventions, and now we have about 45 minutes left in the session for discussion and questions and answers. So I invite all the participants who would like to ask a question or engage in a discussion. Please go ahead. You can raise your hand using the function. I have received one question. As we wait for the hands, in the system, we have received a question that I'll just read out, and we'll look for contributions from our speakers. So a question from APC Colombia. How African international cooperation agencies are working with other international cooperation agencies outside Africa? Are you developing partnerships with Latin American institutions? So that's a question to all our speakers, and you're welcome to take that. Somebody can, all of you can participate in this discussion. Perhaps it's more relevant for our colleagues Sarah, you can take that, or our colleagues from Egypt, colleagues from Morocco, you're welcome to take it. So,
Ahmed, I saw one of the speakers or participants raised his hand, so I thought he wants to take the floor.
I can't see it in the. Is Yoko, can you help me out? I can't see anyone raising their hand.
It's Muhammad Nouri, but he just raised his hand on the screen, not on the chat. That's why
okay.
you were not.
On the screen, okay. Well, when I said raise hand, please use the function. You can click the button so we can see your hand up. But maybe we can call, on Ambassador Miskal from Morocco. Perhaps he can shed some light on what Morocco is doing, UNOSSC is doing in terms of building relationships with Latin American institutions.
Okay, Ahmed, thank you for the question. Yeah, for sure. We started working with we are working to develop partnership with the cooperation agencies from Latin America, and I can say that on the 6th of April, an agreement will be signed between the Moroccan International Cooperation Agency and the Colombian Presidential Cooperation Agency, APCE. So it will be it's an important agreement because it will initiate bilateral cooperation between both agencies, but also it will allow both agencies to develop together triangular cooperation program, either toward African country, but also through the expertise and the knowledge that APCI has already developed to organize capacity building program for Latin American countries with the support from Morocco. So this is one of the initiatives that we are working on with countries in Latin America. We are also discussing with other countries in Latin America in order to develop such initiatives. UNOSSC, as you know, is very much involved in the cooperation towards Africa, but we also we are developing roadmaps with the Caribbean countries and Latin America countries. We contributed to support the health project in those countries, in agriculture, also in fishery, and we use it to host in Morocco capacity building program for countries from Latin America, but also from the Caribbean. So we are already involved, and our aim is really to reinforce and to strengthen this partnership with those agencies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Miskal. And other speakers are welcome to also join in this debate or answer this question. I'm sure that other cooperation agencies, for sure, PICA, TICA, all of them have cooperation, Egypt with Latin America. So if you'd like to maybe share some of your perspectives, that will be very welcome.
I think Sarah is asking for the floor.
Okay, Ms. Sarah, please go ahead.
Just a quick reflection on this question. I preferred, of course, to listen more to the member states, Morocco and Egypt, because they have also their own bilateral channels to communicate with non-African countries, of course, from the global south. But what I want to say that we are also discussing the formation of EU working group from Addis Ababa at the Commission, the EU Chairperson Office, and APRM on South-South cooperation BAPA +40. And this discussion already started last year, and it's progressing this year for the convening of Africa Forum, DG High-Level Forum on South-South cooperation. And that's why, as I said in my point, Ahmed, that the holistic approach to have Africa's voice, Africa's vision for South-South cooperation is extremely important, because as much as we appreciate the bilateral channel, we want to also to nurture this concept of peer learning. So Morocco has great experience to share on South-South cooperation and can also cascade this to other countries. And therefore, I truly hope that through the APRM, we can found this holistic role to play and link between our member states and also other regional blocks in other continents. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contribution to the debate.
Sorry, can I take the floor?
Could you please, we couldn't see your video, just if you could identify yourself.
Okay, my name is François Coco, and I'm the regional chief for the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation.
You're welcome.
Okay, so on the specific question, I wanted to say there are 3 levels of interactions between Africa and Latin America. The first level is the national level or country level, and the specific national cooperation agencies deal with that. Then there is a second level, which is more centralized at the office of the African Union Commission chairperson. And that is handled by the partnership division. Then there is a third level, which is the one of the African Union institutions, such as APRM, AUDA, NEPAD, that also have a number of interactions with Latin America, but also other regions. That's what I wanted to say quickly as what is happening on the continent in terms of the different interactions. So national agencies can say what they do specifically with Latin America. Then the office of the chairperson can say exactly the different agreements that they have with Latin America. But I recall that there is this Africa-Latin America forum that was instituted, I think, in 2002. It has not been very, very active, but it exists. I leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. And we'll take also Ambassador Imad Zuhairi, please. You're welcome to take the floor.
Thank you, brother. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Ahmed, can you hear me?
Yes, Ambassador, we can hear you.
Yeah. Actually, I have some remarks and some suggestions to present to our meeting today. First one is related to national interest and bilateral programs. You know, each and every single country and agency has its own agenda, has its own in a way to show more the involvement of countries, agencies when it comes to implementing collective agendas, most particularly the United Nations 2030 agenda. Having said that, adapting needs and priorities of the South should be a collective exercise, and that should be documented and made available and to all member countries and the member family of the South. Tools to measuring level of involvement and contribution by countries and agencies is of great importance to make also available for the agencies and the bodies that are in charge of realizing United Nations 2030 SDGs. This is indispensable for us. We need to measure our involvement as agencies and as countries when it comes to contributing to realizing international related plans. Evaluation and assessment to South-South and triangular cooperation is a must, and that should be given more attention in terms of tools and modalities. Finally, I think that if we have and we don't have the human resources that we need to proceed in promoting triangular and South-South cooperation, there's a gap. And if we have the human resources, but we don't have the financial resources, that is another problem. I think seriously that we should be taking lessons learned from the past performance, from the past operations, and look for this relation between financial and human resources as something that we should be allocating more time, more energy, and more thinking to come to a point where we match the human resources with financial resources that are available in the countries of the South. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Zuhairi. I think very good points regarding assessing performance, seeing results, and also, making sure that human resources and financial resources are aligned. I think this topic about assessment is an ongoing discussion. We've had several views, being exchanged, or even during this DG forum. So thank you for this contribution on this point. So we have another hand up from Mr. Mohammed Toure. You're welcome to make your intervention, please. If we could, Mr. Mohammed Toure, can you hear us? Okay, you're unmuted, please.
Bien, je vous remercie. Je suis Patrick Camara, le directeur général de l'Agence guinéenne de coopération technique. Je voudrais tout d'abord saluer fraternellement et cordialement tous les intervenants précédents et rappeler effectivement la volonté de l'agence guinéenne à s'insérer dans le cadre de la solidarité, dans le cadre de la coopération sud-sud et triangulaire. Et comme vous le savez, nous avions lancé en 2020 un programme dans le cadre du TILTOUSI avec l'agence tunisienne de coopération technique et la Banque islamique de développement. Un projet à flux inversé en février 2020 et un mois plus tard, on a eu le Covid. Donc, je crois que l'action solidaire des pays de la communauté internationale, en tout cas ceux qui agissent dans le cadre de la coopération sud-sud, doit être renforcée pour que nous puissions sortir nos pays de ce piège de cette pandémie. Entre-temps, nous avons travaillé, en tout cas au niveau de l'agence guinéenne, à renforcer les capacités de l'agence dans le cadre de l'écosystème national guinéen pour la rendre plus visible et plus opérationnelle. Et là-dessus, nous avons eu la satisfaction que le gouvernement, avec à sa tête le président de la République, a validé les statuts de l'agence guinéenne de coopération technique et a signé les statuts pour en faire outil en République de Guinée pour la coopération, pour la promotion de la coopération sud-sud et triangulaire. Je crois que ça, c'est un acquis en plein cœur de cette pandémie. Nous travaillons également au renforcement de la collaboration avec l'agence tunisienne pour ce qui est de l'Afrique et l'agence marocaine avec laquelle nous avons un mémorandum en attente de signature. Et donc, voilà un peu les activités qu'on a essayé de mener au cours de 2020 après BAPA plus 40, compte tenu des difficultés énumérées par les uns et les autres et également vécues en Guinée. Je crois qu'il est important aujourd'hui que nous passons au cadre de la vaccination à l'échelle mondiale. Je pense que c'est une piste sur laquelle le DigiForum devrait réfléchir pour voir comment assister à créer cette solidarité d'assistance envers les pays que nous constituons pour rapidement se sortir de cette pandémie. Et donc, moi-même qui vous parle ce matin, j'ai pris mon vaccin contre le premier vaccin contre le Covid, puisqu'il y en a 2 prises. Donc, voilà un peu les préoccupations que nous avons quant à l'opérationnalisation de l'Agence guinéenne de coopération technique qui est au service de la coopération sud-sud et triangulaire et au service du TILTOUSI que nous avons avec la Banque islamique de développement. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed Toure, for your intervention. And the last point that you made about the vaccines, I think it's agreeable to all of us. Definitely, we need action on this item. So, thank you so much. Sorry, we couldn't hear you. Thank you for your intervention. So we'll, Mr. Tarek, the floor is yours, please.
C'est M. Camara Patrice, le directeur général de l'agence guinéenne.
Thank you, Mr. Patrice. Thank you very much.
Patrice Camara.
Thank you.
Camara. So just very quickly, because I think this is an important question from Colombia, because what we
Mr. Camara,
we are
Patrice.
aiming what we are aiming
Sure.
through this DG forum is
Camara, Patrice.
Mr. Patrice, well, okay, I think your screen name was maybe entered the wrong way. That's fine. We've taken note of this. Thank you very much. Sorry, Mr. Tarek.
No, just very quickly, I said this is, I think it's really an important question from Colombia, because what we are trying to do with the DG forum, the aim is, of course, to serve as a connector between stakeholders, actors of South-South cooperation, triangular cooperation, different regions, but also coming from different perspective. You can even see it from the diversity of the participants in this DG forum, from member state to international organization, regional organization, civil society organization, multilateral development bank like the Islamic Development Bank, because this is our aim. So we want different stakeholders, different actors to come, to share, to learn from each other. But most importantly, we would like them to initiate partnerships, to initiate cooperation and coordination effort. And I was really happy yesterday at the plenary when I saw that one of the participants, based on a presentation made by one of the speakers, wanted to connect through the chat box with that speaker because she was interested by the initiative that were undertaken by that organization. So this is the aim, this is objective of the DG forum. And the reason why it is true that this time we're having it virtual, but I think it was also a good opportunity in order to also to have a chance to have an important discussions today. For example, with this breakout session for Africa and Europe, but we have had also important breakout sessions yesterday for the Americas and Asia. And we will be resuming tomorrow, because our aim also is how we can connect these different regions and how we can bring them together, because the main objective, the ultimate objective of how we can have a kind of cross-fertilization of ideas, of initiatives, and how they can work together in order to find solutions that will work, and especially in this really doubting context of the pandemic. But if I may say, that the main takeaway is, of course, that the DG forum itself is an important tool for connecting different actors and stakeholders of South-Southern triangular cooperation. And we see that it started also to yield so many important results, because this question of Colombia, I think it's really key. And we are looking forward, of course, to, based on our mandate, because it's our mandate and our mission to connect the different stakeholders that we can, based on the cooperation that we are having with you, the partnership that we are having with you, that we can succeed, achieve that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tarek. And we have also Dr. Rahman Nurdun, who would like to take the floor. Please go ahead, Dr. Rahman. But you're muted. Sorry, you're muted, Dr. Rahman.
Well, thank you very much, Ahmed. Well, just some very quick points. During my speech, I mentioned, we are ready to share our experiences with other donors. And in fact, as far as JICA is concerned, we've been, JICA is in this developed community since 1992. And now we have roughly 62 offices in several continents. And only Africa and Middle East and Africa, we have 29 offices. And I just came back from Chad. Last week I was in Chad and attending the some project inauguration ceremonies. And I recall I visited a cooperative kind of women empowerment program, kind of, one part of the program. And I can tell from the face of the women working the cooperative. They're so happy to see me because it's a small project, but it is really, really meaningful during the time of pandemic. And so why I'm saying this, because we should not neglect the normal project implementation, because the pandemic can be a very big excuse for many people, because you have the problem of to travel freely, you have to need to be vaccination. Some countries just say you can't come in, you can't go out. So these are the restrictions, these are the problems. And as I said during my speech, we implemented around 200 projects in 72 countries. So it's not an easy job, in the during the period of the high peak of the coronavirus, we managed to reach out to the countries to implement projects. It's not easy. It's risky. You have the risk of contracting the disease, but we made it because we know we should do this. And in offices where we cannot reach in the countries, we implemented the projects through the embassies and the consul generals, And so the point is, we should, on one hand, we should combat coronavirus and to provide the countries to combat the disease through medical equipment or other means which is needed for the country. On the other hand, the most important of all is to implement normal development cooperation projects as much as we can. Otherwise, this will be going on and on. We never know when it's going to stop, because a lot of countries still waiting for vaccinations. As Turkey, we are also waiting for the large amount of vaccination, because it's not easy, because we are experiencing shortage of vaccination. So it's not easy. So, but the countries, especially African countries, they are very vulnerable, and Chad is one of the most vulnerable countries, I should say, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of a lot of infrastructure. They have less access to the proper clean water and to the medicines. It's just a very privileged situation. So it's not easy, and so I would like to share our experience if there's any request from our donors, because we are a southern partner, because Turkey is still receiving development aid from European Union, from some international organizations at the same time. Although it's a very small amount of aid coming in Turkey, but we're still recipient country. We are the southern country, and we have experience of past more than 20 years. We have the experience because our cooperation is based on the South-South cooperation. It's just a two-way cooperation. And the last point is we have set up kind of trial agreement with the bilateral donors. In Latin America, we have cooperation agreement with the Colombia. The lady just mentioned about the cooperation possibilities. We have cooperation with the Colombia Aid Agency, Chile Aid Agency, San Pedro Aid Agency, and the Mexican Aid Agency, and other aid agencies in other world. But it's not easy to understand, because we are still have problem in the trilateral cooperation because of the travel ban and some obstacles posed by the disease. So it's not easy. As far as the South-South cooperation is concerned, I would say we are okay. We are ready to share experiences, and we are waiting for the cooperation partnerships. Any suggestions, I would welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rahman, for your comments. I think it's the point about the pandemic slowing things down, but of course the needs on the ground have not slowed down. People are still in poverty. In fact, poverty has increased because of the pandemic, and the solution, the need for solutions, the need for capacities, the need for supporting each other has only risen. So the cooperation has to continue, and this we're glad that all of us are here discussing how to accelerate that and to facilitate those exchanges among the countries of the South. So thank you so much. Ambassador Imad, we see your hand up. Do you want to make another intervention, or is that from the previous?
No, actually, it's from the previous one. I'm always happy to intervene, but I would like to listen to the important remarks being made by our colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, and you're always welcome. We don't see any new hands up. Are there other questions from colleagues? You're welcome to join in. You can just turn on your mic and speak if you'd like to say anything. If not, I do have a question. Just a small, not to put everyone on the spot, but I think it's also something that was discussed in the different breakout sessions, in the Asia breakout session, as well as the one for the Americas. And, it's also sort of the topic, in the concept note, in the theme of this discussion, which is, what do we need to improve to make South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation more effective, and development cooperation in general, what needs to improve? Looking post-COVID-19, hopefully after the vaccination, reaches everyone and things go back to normal, do we do things the same way? Do we do things a little bit differently? And if so, what are your views in terms of what needs to change? So that's maybe a question to our speakers, but also everyone else, and anybody in the forum can pitch in if you have ideas and thoughts and suggestions or additional questions. Thank you. So we don't see any hands up for answering the question. Should we go maybe one by one just to take some thoughts from our speakers? Ambassador Imad, would you like to go first? I see you smiling, so maybe you want to take this?
Very, very important question you just raised. Actually, we need to develop lots of things. Pre-COVID-19 era has absolutely nothing to do with post-COVID-19 era. But still, we are in the middle of this crisis, and we know what yet is coming for all of us, not as individual countries, but collectively. I think that we should be giving that piece of thinking individually. And each and every single agency is under the obligation to think and envisage, put plans for its own agency. How are we supposed to perform in the coming months, or in the coming few months, I would say, or 2022? As far as PICA is concerned, as I said in the beginning, we shifted our interest to develop our internal capacities and to develop our national ecosystem. But that would not mean at all that we will not be performing on the international scene. The issue of cooperation with international organizations remains to be of sensitive nature. Let me give you a small example. A few weeks ago, His Excellency President Mahmoud Abbas received a letter from SG Guterres concerning the high-level meeting to pledge support to the crisis in Yemen. Accordingly, the Palestinian International Cooperation Agency was designated to participate, and we confirmed our participation and our contribution, and we pledged to deploy 45 medical team members, specialized one, to Yemen on quarterly basis for a period of 1 year, in addition to deploying one medical clinic and 15 to 25 infrastructure engineers. We are working together on bilateral relation with the government of Yemen, but still, when it comes to coordinating with OCHA, when it comes to coordinating with all these humanitarian international organizations that are based in Yemen, we are still having some difficulties. That would say that we need to open direct channels of communication, coordination, and cooperation with these agencies in charge of humanitarian issues. And I see that there should be an involvement by the Islamic Development Bank or the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation to facilitate these contacts and to enable these agencies to fully contribute and disperse the pledges that are made. More coordination with international specialized agencies is requested. This is one issue. The second issue, as I said, brother, it's good. We are performing in 2019, we realized more than 22 projects and programs in different parts of the world, in Africa, Asia, etc. And we say as speaker that this is our contribution as a state of Palestine in realizing United Nations 2030 SDGs. Fine, but where do we stand from the overall picture when it comes to the international community involvement in realizing 2030 SDGs? What is our part of involvement? How do we measure this involvement? How do we assess this involvement? That is an exercise that should be taken at the level of international organizations and specialized agencies to assess and measure the contribution by states as a way to realize 2030 SDGs. Everyone is speaking about 2030 SDGs, but what is the part of the South in realizing this? We should move from being an actor when it comes to operations to becoming an actor in putting the strategies. We should be part of drawing the plans when it comes to international agendas with relation to development. These are my two remarks.
Thank you so much. And, these are well noted. I think your last point, of course, in terms of not just, receiving, being on the receiving end, but also formulating the strategies and the, the direction for the South, by the South. This is an important point. Thank you so much, Ambassador. Ms. Sarah, I saw your camera come on when I was asking the question, so I have a feeling you want to intervene.
Yeah, just quick messages or maybe recommendations that, as you said, how we should work better, what needs to be improved. I think 3 key ideas, Ahmed, for that. First of all is strengthening the coordination and institutional mechanisms at continental level. Because as my dear friend, also Francois Ikoko from UNDP Addis Ababa office, UN Office for South-South Cooperation, there are different levels of interventions for South-South Cooperation, national, regional, and also the continental level of the African Union. But I strongly doubt if we manage to do something crucial for South-South Cooperation to harmonize efforts, for instance, in 2020. It's very hard, and I strongly doubt if any organ except maybe the UN Office for South-South Cooperation can track the initiatives and the South-South Cooperation flows given to African countries last year, just to be very frank. So there is a need to have this holistic approach to strengthen M&E and monitoring system to track South-South Cooperation in the continent. I really admired what Mr. Rahman mentioned from JICA regarding the support given to Chad. But I'm more interested to understand how this is aligned also with other donor support to Chad. And that's the second key message, that I am worried about the issue of fragmentation and proliferation of South-South Cooperation initiatives in the continent. And that will take us again to the issue of similar to aid effectiveness or ODA ineffectiveness. So we have a golden chance, I think, silver line opportunity as institutions, emerging donors, emerging organizations from the global South to try to achieve this cohesive and aligned approach and holistic approach of intervention, especially in a big continent like Africa. The third point and key message, I think, as Tariq alluded to, the value of DG forums. And as we have a DG forum at global level to come together and reflect our visions from the continents, Africa also deserves its own voice to have such a forum at continental level to build this connector between ideas, between think tanks, between policymakers, civil society, private sector, all partners, all actors involved, stakeholders concerned about South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation in the continent. I think this is extremely important. And of course, the focus on more South-South cooperation for SDG 3, without ignoring also South-South initiatives for other SDGs like education, like creating jobs, like knowledge transfer, technology transfer for African countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sarah, for these comments from your side. And I think we have about 10 minutes left. I really wanted to reach out to some of our speakers if they have any final comments or a final word from your side. Mr. Helge or Ms. Alia, also you're welcome if you'd like to make a final thought. Dr. Rahman Nurdin, also if you have any final thoughts. Please go ahead, Dr. Rahman.
Well, thank you very much. Hello again. Well, previous speakers, Imad and Sarah, they mentioned about the evaluation and measurement of the aid, and Sarah mentioned about alignment. Well, they are good questions, but it's not easy, technically speaking, because we try to build up kind of partnership between the 1,000 partners, kind of platform, which is closely resembles kind of resemblance of DAC, OECD DAC. But it's not easy to push forward because of the pandemic. We have 3 meetings, I guess, in Mexico, in Turkey, and in South Africa. It's not easy to move forward because of the technical reason, because all the countries have their own voice. And well, it's a good idea, but somebody got to do the job about measurement. And the United Nations South-South Cooperation Unit, I guess, is well placed to fill up this gap. After the post-COVID situation, I guess, under the UN umbrella, maybe you can go ahead for this kind of process or whatever you call it. And as far as the alignment is concerned, well, we are implementing aid according to the Paris Declaration on Aid Effectiveness, which is the #1 country strategy, and then ownership. So that's what we are doing in Africa, in all the other countries. So we are not, we are trying to avoid duplications, or other projects we have implemented already by other donors. We are very keen on trying to avoid this kind of duplications, because in some countries, really the donor agency, they are kind of donor coordination board in some countries. But unfortunately, it's not very effective. It's not less efficient. And the people just, as Sarah said, we should walk the talk. But, we end up talk the talk. So that's the problem, because I've been also assumed, I assumed the post of, from CV, you can see, I've been worked for the office, the Tika local office in Mongolia. I from a personal feeling experience. Well, we have this kind of donor coordination mechanism between the all donor agencies operation in the country, but it's not easy. I mean, to reach a kind of common understanding, because you have your own agenda. And I tried to visit all the donor agencies, the head of the mission. Well, I couldn't mobilize them to do a kind of joint project. That's my personal experience in Mongolia. And so, well, you're right, Sarah. We should align our efforts with all the donors, but it's not easy, technically speaking. And I guess you all know what I'm saying. Well, but still, we should go ahead. We should do something, because we got to do the job. Otherwise, when we say we should reach the 2030 agenda, SDG agenda, it will remain a kind of piece of paper, just like, MDG, we're short of the targets MDG. That's why we have 2030 agenda. And I'm quite happy because you raised about the very important question, as Imad and Sarah and other speakers. This is a very important topic, very important question. We got to do it. I know it's not easy, but somebody got to do it. And last and not the least, the UNOSS is well placed to do the job. Maybe you can start to talk about this kind of agenda in the next meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rahman. And we have a request also from Ms. Alia to share some thoughts on this. Ms. Alia, please, the floor is yours.
I hope you can hear me and see me as well. Well,
Yes.
yeah, and thank you again to giving me a chance to talk. Well, I'm participating in this event I already mentioned for the first time, and it was really, really interesting. And yesterday I participated also in the sessions, and I was listening carefully what kind of problems all the countries are facing with because of COVID-19 pandemic. The question that all the questions actually which were raised here are really crucial and important. And as it was mentioned before, pre-COVID era has nothing to do with post-COVID, period of time, and nobody knows what to expect. And of course, we're all has a desire to come back to our normal lives. Like children want to go to school, people want to get their workplaces back, which were closed because of pandemic and etc. And of course, there are a lot of new, absolutely new agenda and new question standing in front of donor agencies like ours, for instance. If in the past we were dealing with a different projects implemented in different developing countries, like in different areas like health or education or infrastructure or something. The whole 2020 year, our agency were dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, because a lot of countries, as I mentioned before, AIDA helped, Azerbaijan helped through AIDA to 33 countries which needed the actual health. And all our job, all our work were, dedicated to pandemic. But actually how it will develop after vaccination, we still don't know. But discussing our new actual agenda for 2021 and even for 2022, it's absolutely impossible not to think about COVID, because we don't know how it will be developed. But as it was mentioned before, I think, and it's already was mentioned several times, that we need to do something. We really need to think how to collect all efforts and to help to help each other, because I think it's my personal observation during this year that when country gathers together and trying to do something, just like group of people, when group of people gathers together, they're stronger. It same goes to the countries. When we gather together and do something in common, of course, the result is much more better. That is why I would like to strongly emphasize again that meetings like this, events like this, are especially crucial, because we can, we can't meet in person, but still, we can still meet like that and discuss a lot of questions and absorb the situation in different countries, listen to each other, and to come, to try to implement, to learn from each other and try to implement it in our countries. And hopefully, I do hope that after vaccination, maybe after some time, the situation will be better. But I think the lesson learned very well, that together we're stronger, and we should really, stay together, cooperate, and and like this. Thank you. I hope that I didn't take too long. Too much of your time. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for sharing your views. It's very important and interesting. And thank you very much once again for organizing such an event and for inviting us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I will just go to Mr. Helge. If you have some final thoughts. One request that I have from everybody is, this will be closing soon, is also to turn on your cameras if you don't mind, and we can take a quick family photo. Mr. Helge, and then we will turn over to Mr. Tarek. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks to all speakers for very rich inputs. I could make just two small points at the end, if I may, and now considering what do we need to improve. The first will be one on finance, I think, because many of us are technical cooperation agencies that are funded over the state budgets. In the case of the traditional donors, like Norway is, these budgets for development cooperation are often calculated as a percentage of the gross national product, which has gone down in all these countries during this year. In Norway's case, it's usually around 1%. In other countries, 0.7%. But the product itself has gone down. So if nothing else is done, we can expect the budgets in real terms, in real monetary terms, to be less. So I think job number one after the COVID is really to advocate for keeping up the real size of the budgets. The job number two, I think, is more on the softer side, and I could phrase it something like we all have to contribute to, in a way, interpret the pandemic in a productive way, to have the right narrative about what could be done, because there is, I think, it has shown during this year a sort of competition between national narratives and global narratives, and we are all on the playing field of global cooperation, international cooperation, while there are also forces now which are strongly promoting that the solution to the pandemic is more of a national focus. So at least, of course, for personnel exchange, which physically is connected to an international narrative about how good it is and how productive and effective it is, it is obvious that we need a sort of global narrative that understands the pandemic and puts it in the right place as to how it was caused and how it can be solved and how it can be prepared in the future. But this is not only for personnel exchange. I think it goes for more or less all our cooperation activities that we have heard about today and others. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Helge, and over to you, Mr. Tariq. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Farouk, and I'd like to thank all the colleagues for really highlighting important aspects. And we are happy that when you ask a question about how to improve South-South cooperation, triangular cooperation, how to make it effective, that I think almost all the colleagues mentioned the UN Office South-South cooperation. The UN Office for South-South cooperation came up in their interventions. And what I can say is that what we are doing in the office is that we are doing our part. How are we doing our part? Because we, and even I can say even more than that, we are reaching out to all our partners in order to make sure that they come together to discuss, to establish dialogue between them, to share what they have, to learn from each other. And just Helge mentioned about having a common narrative, a global narrative that can lead us also to a common objective and also common action. But let me just be much more specific. And one of the instrument that really can play this role of bringing all together for common solution is the DG Forum that we are putting at disposal of all practitioners of South-South cooperation, triangular cooperation, from the national perspective, the government perspective, from the international organization perspective, regional and other stakeholders. We have mentioned the private sector. We have mentioned civil society organization and so on. So this is what we are doing in order to bring the South-South cooperation to the multilateral arena. And the reason is, and the objective is very simply how we can amplify, how we can multiply the effect of the innovative solutions. I think this is an important aspect. And as I just, in my previous intervention, I said I was happy that yesterday I saw that the participants started to connect with each other through the chat box in order to establish initiating a contact, and the role of connector that you are playing at DG Forum is playing. I think this is an important aspect of the work that we are doing. We are bringing practitioners together in order to discuss, in order to share, but most importantly, we would like them also to initiate partnerships. The other aspect that we are doing, and this is part of our work also on our mandate, is also we have platform for policy making processes. I don't know if I mentioned today or yesterday about the high-level committee on South-South cooperation. This is the main policy-making body in the UN that brings together, again, representative of government, but also other stakeholders in order to talk and to discuss and to decide about the policy options, about South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation, how they can better contribute to the achievement of the SDGs and how they can more effectively face challenges like this one that we are facing. Because I think the key concept, the key word, and from the beginning of when this pandemic started, that no single country will be able to overcome this crisis alone. And we are also again putting at the disposal of the international community this platform in order to come to discuss the policy dimensions of sustainable development. And I think Mr. Ahmed mentioned that we need to come up with global policies in order to see how that will allow us in order to strengthen, to enforce our cooperation, our partnership, in order to respond to the specific challenges of the countries of the South. This is another aspect of the work that we are doing, and how we are trying to make South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation, international cooperation in general, much more effective. The other dimension, and I think Helge also mentioned it in his last intervention, is about financing and funding. We play also that role. And one of the examples that I can share with you is that we are hosting and managing South-South cooperation funds, like the India Fund, the IPSA Fund, the India, Brazil, and South Africa Fund. That have contributed even during the period of the pandemic hugely in alleviating the impact of the pandemic on in so many countries, from the health perspective, from the social and economic impact. So all these aspects, I think that we are in some way trying to, and as I said from the beginning, the play the role of the connector between the different stakeholders in order to come together to find solution, to discuss. But I think it's a two-way process. We are doing our part by bringing you all together, by stimulating and your discussions, your dialogue, but also facilitating your partnership. And we are more than happy to do more based on the partnership that we have been establishing with you. I was happy to hear from Sarah that we are working with her in order to establish this regional platform for Africa. This is an important aspect in order to bring together collectively the African countries to discuss and to share, but most importantly, how they can pool their effort in order to align their effort, to coordinate the effort, because one of the key element and how the international community was able and started to overcome this crisis by better coordination, by better cooperation. It's not only between countries, but also by bringing and involving other stakeholders, like civil society organization, grassroots organization that have much more access, the people that are in need, but also by bring in the private sector, because remember that the private sector has played a major role, an important role, for example, for the development of the vaccine. This is something that we would like to do with different stakeholders, different actors. I just mentioned the example of APRM, and Sarah was really very eloquent in presenting that aspect of the work that we are doing. We are also aiming to work with all of you in a sense to make South-South cooperation, triangular cooperation, international cooperation in general much more effective in a way that will respond more effectively in a coordinated way to the real needs of the countries of the South. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. I think we've gone beyond our time by 10 minutes. I hope that wasn't an issue for all of you, but really this was a rich discussion. We really thank all of our speakers for sharing their perspectives and their experiences. And for the discussion, really, I think it was fruitful. We want to say that this is not the end. After this breakout session tomorrow, we have the concluding session that will take place. There will be some session reports, so the moderators will share some summarized insights and points that we have discussed. And then we will have an open discussion, final thoughts, final points that you want to raise, questions, even ideas for future collaboration and ideas for the future steps that we should take, which will then be put into the recommendations report, which will be shared with you afterwards. So thank you so much. I don't know, Mr. Tarek, if you have anything final to say, or we can
no,
close.
I think that was really a very rich discussion, and I'd like to thank you first for your very effective and ably moderation of this important session, but also to thank our distinguished panelists for sharing this important insight and ideas, but also most importantly, by stimulating new ideas. I think this is the most important in order to move on and in how we can strengthen our relationship, our partnerships for sustainable development for the benefit of the countries of the South. So we are more than happy to continue working with you all. And I'd like to invite you, as Mr. Farouk mentioned, that tomorrow we will be resuming our plenary session so we can come all together. I think there's an important opportunity to learn from each other. They'd like that session to be a kind of cross-fertilization of ideas or perspective from the different regions. It was in some way, I think it was some way very, very successful in the sense that we had this breakout session in different regions of the South, but also of the North, bringing also important stakeholders from the North, so that they can once again come together in order to come up with a collective solutions and collective action that we can put forward together. Thank you very much once again, and looking forward to continue our collaboration with you, but most importantly to see you tomorrow in the last plenary of this DG Forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, and see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
All right.